Hello, listeners. Been wondering how you can help the show? Probably not. But here are 5 things you can do. 1. Subscribe. Support the show by clicking the subscription link in the show notes. 2. Review on iTunes, on our website, www.afraidofnothingpodcast.com, or on whatever app you listen to. 3. Donate. When you go to our website, click the cute coffee cup icon. Or in the show notes, click the subscription link. 4. Share. Sharing really is caring. Tell your friends and even your enemies to check out the show. 5. Watch. Wait a minute, it's a podcast, not a movie. Actually, it's both. Check the show notes to find out where to watch the documentary. You can also rent it on Prime Video. That's it. Oh, one last thing. Enjoy this episode.
In a world where nothing is known, nothing is certain, reality is not real. Wake up! Be afraid of nothing. I'm Bob Heskey.
Robert.
The host with the ghost.
This is my podcast, based on my paranormal documentary, Afraid of Nothing. Each episode, we talk to people who see life and the afterlife through a different lens. Join me.
Who is this large man? And what's he doing in our bedroom?
As we lift the veil and open our minds to see beyond our eyes lie. This is Afraid of Nothing.
Okay, everyone, this is the last episode of 2020. And because it's been such a challenging year, I've got 2 of my best guests. From episode 25, author, paranormal investigator, medium Rob Gutro. Rob has crushed the episode downloads. He has about 1,250 downloads as of the time of this recording, which is probably like 3 to 4 times the average. So Rob's just amazing. And Rob's also just written a new book, which he's going to tell us about very shortly. And a good friend of Rob's is no slouch either. Her name is Ruthie Larkin. She was episode 29. Ruthie is recognized as one of the top 50 psychics in America, and she's also the 6th most downloaded episode so far in my first year. So, Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Ruthie, and welcome back too.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here with the 2 of you.
Ruthie, I know you don't usually do podcasts, so it's a pleasure having you for the first one. I know Rob is a dear friend, so this is going to be a lot of fun tonight.
I expect it will be, especially with Rob on.
So, Rob, we're going to start with a plug for you. You, on our last episode that you were on, you were working on a book, Pets and the Afterlife 3. I had you do a reading on one of my friends who had his past year was kind of like a country song. He got divorced, his mom died, his brother died, and then his dog died. And so you actually connected with his dog and you blew him away. And actually my friend Dan Miller and his dog is going to be in your book. So why don't you tell us what's the current status of your book and when can we buy it and all that great stuff?
That's right. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, that was quite an experience. So I've become known as kind of a pet medium, although I talk to both people and pets. But the name of the book is Pets in the Afterlife 3. It's my 3rd volume of messages from pets. And this one focuses on spirit dogs because his pet, of course, was a dog. And dogs are very, very special to me because my husband and I have had 4 canine kids. And now we have 4 in spirit and we have 2 other ones. But these are amazing messages of all the ways dogs communicate from the other side. Plus, there's a special chapter from a very good friend of mine who is a medical psychologist, and he teaches us how to cope with grief.
Oh, that's great.
So that'll come out in January.
Yeah, so that's coming real soon. And where can people follow you and know when it's available?
They can follow me at petspirits.com. That's easiest. Or Rob Gutro on Amazon.
Beautiful. All right, now I'm going to start this off. You guys are actually very good friends, brother and sister, you've told me before, almost like off the air. So I'd like you to open this episode. If people haven't heard you before on this podcast, Ruthie, we'll start with you. Could you introduce Rob Gutro to us and what his strengths are as a medium and how he's kind of wowed you with some of the stuff that he does?
I'd be happy to. Well, first of all, Rob, I always tease him that he is like my brother from another mother. And I am closer to him than I even am to my own brothers. And one of the biggest reasons I'm closest to him is because he is probably one of the most humane and nurturing and wonderful men I've ever met in my entire life. And I say that with an amazing amount of positivity because I know it to be true. He is and has always had time for everyone and helping people. He's an incredibly gifted meteorologist. He's a scientist, but what I love about him is that he's open to anything and everything, which is what we really should be as human beings, because I always say we're spiritual beings having a human experience. He has taught me, he's my mentor. And 10 years ago, when I had a lot of questions, I went to Rob. I was introduced to him. It was the best introduction probably of my life because he pushed me, and he likes to say he guided me. I'd say he pushed. He kept saying, you need a website, you need this, you need that. And I was like, oh no, I can't. My mother will kill me. And I come from a family of born again Christians, and they are over the edge born again Christians. So my mother would not be happy about that, and she wasn't. But he really gave me the confidence to do what I'm supposed to do and be who I'm supposed to be. So he's truly gifted beyond gifted with pets. I have seen him in action many, many times, given readings with pets. I even had him drop in on a show I was doing in Newport, Rhode Island. Remember that, Rob? And I called up my hostess and I said, we have a huge surprise and you are going to be so happy and your guests are going to be so happy. My friend Rob Gutro is in town and I've asked him to just drop by and be with us. And they loved him. He gave so many good readings that night. I can read pets, but Rob's better. He's the best that I know, and I do it. But he got me to do that too. I can't say enough good about him. I love the fact that he puts out so much energy in all the mediumship work as well as everything else. And his books are great. They're easy to read. They're written in a language that anyone can understand, meaning that he doesn't write like a scientist. He writes like an author who understands people and what they need to hear.
Rob, you need to now do an intro for Ruthie, and that's kind of a tough thing after she did this great intro for you. But introduce us to Ruthie, and then I have a question for both you guys after that. So go ahead.
Sure. Well, I have to shrink my head back down because this just
Yeah, right.
really inflated my ego there. Thank you, Ruthie. I will tell you, Bob, that this is an instance where I would guess, the student becomes the master because Ruthie's skills are far more developed than mine are. She is a medical intuitive. She's a Reiki master. She's a medium, which means she speaks to people and pets who passed. But she's also a psychic, so she can tune into energies of past, present, and future. So she can tell all kinds of things. Ruthie has far more abilities than I could ever dream of having. And she also has an affinity for those people who lost children. So she's helped countless people who lost children and continues to do so. She even provides free readings for some of those people. Tremendous heart. Talk about people that help everybody. Oh my gosh. I think she financially supports the world. But anybody that wants the most accurate, most incredible, definitive readings from any medium in the world has to go to Ruthie, the Beantown medium.
Now, I have one question as you guys were both talking. Have you guys met in a prior life? I know, Ruthie, we did a segment on reincarnation on the documentary Afraid of Nothing. Are you kind of in your own spiritual circle that you're aware of, or are you just blessed to know each other in this life?
Oh, no, I think we've been linked together for quite a long time.
Absolutely. We bonded immediately. And I mean, there was just no getting around that. I don't think that I bond with someone easily, meaning to the point of just being like a lifelong friend right off the bat.
hmm
And that's how I felt about you, Rob, the moment I met you.
Yeah, same way. Same thing here.
All right. Well, that's a positive opening, which we needed on the show that's going to be talking about negativity. So that's a great way to start. Let's start with a couple things. Rob, just to kind of set the ground for us, we're talking about the paranormal. What's the difference between earthbound ghosts and crossed spirits?
That was actually the premise of my very first book. As a paranormal investigator, I've come to realize that the energies that are within us couple with memories, personality, and knowledge, and we choose to stay earthbound, and that's what I call a ghost, or we cross over into the light on the other side, energies around that surround the cosmos, and that's what I call a spirit. Ghosts are usually at a fixed location of their choosing. They have very limited ability to move. Spirits can appear anywhere, anytime, anyplace. And most people cross over and become spirits. Very few stay behind as earthbound ghosts. And there are a number of reasons, but that's really the bottom line. And they all use energy to get strong enough to communicate physical energies and emotional energies.
So, Ruthie, you deal with people crossing them to the light, and I think a lot of the children from the parents of grieving that have lost children have most of those crossed over, like if they've committed suicide, or are many of those still earthbound ghosts?
I deal with 99.9% of people who have crossed over into the light. I see very few ghosts. I have, though. I have all my whole life. And I have helped cross them over because that takes time and energy. But I have done it. But primarily, I deal with a spirit who is in my mind's eye. I get to see them when I tune in. And I always tell people they're bringing them in by thinking of them. I'm actually reading the energy of the spirit, and I'm seeing the energy. Depending on how many gifts you have, how many senses you can use in your own body will determine how well you see someone or how well you hear them, etc. Rob sees more than I do with the ghost as opposed to spirits.
Yeah, as a paranormal investigator, yeah, that's kind of more of my realm, except for pets. I see pets in spirit.
Do pets hang around as ghosts, or are the same thing like humans, or do they usually cross over?
Good question. Very rarely do they hang around. I've encountered a ghost dog and a ghost cat in the 11 years I've been doing this. So most of them cross over because the spirits of our loved ones are on the other side calling them over.
Well, that's great.
Many people who have passed, it is very normal for a pet to be there with other spirits waiting for someone.
Mhm.
Happens a lot.
This is right after Christmas, the day after Christmas. So, why do spirits of loved ones show up on special occasions? It seems like an obvious answer, but I would think in the afterlife there is no time. So, why do they show up on special occasions like anniversaries or holidays or things like that?
It's been my experience that we maintain our habits in spirit as we did when we were here living on Earth. So, as people, as living people, we always contact people we love around birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays. So, spirits recognize that. And although time is immaterial on the other side, they recognize our time. They recognize what's happening with us. So, they always want to give us messages that they are still very much around and celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays, and that's why they come around.
And Ruthie, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm pretty much in agreement with Rob, and also I just know that their energy is so much stronger on angel. I call them angelversaries, the anniversary of their death or birthdays. And many times when I'm giving a reading, your husband or your child, whoever is showing me the month of February 15th. Does that mean anything to you? And that's my birthday. So they are very well aware, just like Rob said, of all of the holidays and birthdays, and they will give me dates of birthdays and anniversaries and things like that. Pretty amazing.
Ruthie, I have to interject for just a minute and tell you that what's fascinating about talking to pets on the other side is that I get numbers, and I can't tell you how many times the number that they have given me is the date of their birth.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it blows
That's
me away.
awesome. I didn't know that, Rob. That's awesome.
Ruthie, here's a quick question on children or that have died in a tragedy or by suicide. Do they try to connect to their parents on the date of their death, even if it's a tragic memory for the parents and it's very painful? And if they try to do that, do the parents recognize that, or are they grieving so much it's hard for them to recognize a signal from the other side?
That is a question that has multiple answers, Bob. And first of all, the children always want to connect with their parents. No matter what the relationship was, it doesn't make any difference. The parents are always grieving. And again, no matter what the relationship was, I've seen many teenagers or people in their early 20s where there might have been addiction, and so there was a lot of family quarrels, etc. But they're always trying to get through to their parents, and their parents are feeling so much guilt and grief that they can't get through. They can't feel anything like that. So when they come to me, the reason I like working with them is because every parent wants to know that their kid is okay. That's what they want to hear. And the only way they're going to know for sure is if their child is telling them things from the other side that no one else would know. So then they can feel less pain, they can feel less grief. It doesn't stop, but they can feel better about knowing where their child is. So that's why I do it. And that's, they all want to connect. I had a beautiful story just recently. Do I have time to tell you?
Sure.
I had received mail that wasn't mine. And I live in a big 55 townhouse community. So sometimes, once in a while we do get mail that doesn't belong to us, and it goes both ways, of course. And I thought it was an ad at first, and I almost threw it away, but then I got prompted psychically that maybe I should take a peek at what was inside to see if it was important. And there was a $500 check. So I thought, okay, I've got to find out who this belongs to because they had the unit number totally wrong. So I did my investigation and called the company that sent it, and it took me, a little while to get all this done, but we found out, they called me back and we found out who it should have gone to. Well, this is absolutely what happens when children are trying to get a hold of their parents. So he was at he and his family were at the other end of my complex. And so I got a hold of them. They were nice enough to give me the number of the father, who I had no idea he was a father of a son who had died in an accident, but he was. And I said to him, I have, a check here for you. I'd be happy to drop it off if you just give me your real unit number. And then he texted me back and he told me, and he said, my wife was trying to get a hold of you, but you had such a long waiting list. Are you a psychic medium? I said, I am. And he said, we lost a son who was 23 years old. And I said, please have her text me and I will get you in. And so the son was 23, just died in a car accident. And the mother texted me, I got them in. I gave them their appointment this month, as a matter of fact. It was an amazing appointment, an amazing reading, I should say. And the son said everything he wanted to his parents. But that's how he got me to get to their parents.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Isn't that a beautiful story?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great story.
I loved it. And by the time I had 15 minutes, I always prepare for every single reading the exact same way. I make sure that I have time, and I don't read the news. I don't pay attention to anything that's negative. And I sat down. I had a good 15 minutes before we were due for our phone reading, because that's all I'm doing right now with the pandemic. And I sat down, and I knew his name was Ethan. Typically, I don't know the name of the child. I don't even know if it's a boy or girl. But this time I knew his name was Ethan, and I knew he was 23 because his father told me. But I wrote down, I had a whole page of things that I got before I ever picked up the phone to call his parents. I said he loved animals, all animals. He loved even animals in the forest. He was an outdoor kid. that's all he wanted to do was be outdoors. I went on and on and on, and I said, I have things to tell you before you even, before we say anything to each other, because I wrote it all down, and they said 100% right on every single thing. I said, well, he was really wanting to talk to you, to tell me everything about him.
Wow, that's excellent. That kind of leads into one of the things, Rob, we were going to talk about was how emotional events imprint within a structure, like emotional energy, and affect others. So let's start with you, and then we'll go over to Ruthie.
Sure. Well, as a paranormal investigator, I've investigated quite a number of private residences. And what I found is that if there was a traumatic event that happened in a house, whether it be a murder or whether it be some people that were prone to arguments or violence, what happens with those people that have negative emotions, if you will, or negative actions? That radiates energy. And what happens with that energy is it really basically soaks into the walls of the structure. So that whenever somebody else comes into the home later, like decades later, and they're sensitive, they can sense that negativity emanating from the walls because it's residual energy in there, especially for sensitive people. But it also applies to positive things. So if you go to an historic home where perhaps there was a wedding inside, that would basically soak the structure, the inside of the structure, with positive emotional energy. If there was a baby born, if there was an adoption of a pet or something, if somebody won a lottery, all of that positive emotional energy would be in the structure. So people who tend to be sensitive tend to feel that whenever they go into a structure that has some kind of event like that.
Do you, as a ghost hunter, before we go to Ruthie, do you ever, most places, are they negative? Probably because people call you, tell them they're negative. Do you ever go to a place like a church or like a store that you go shopping and go, wow, this place really has super positive energy, and it's just a place where people are just happy, but they don't know that it's kind of surrounded by all this paranormal positivity?
It's more common to find, unfortunately, negative energy. And I will tell you that surprisingly too, you mentioned churches. I find that a lot of churches have kind of a downward energy because a lot of people go to church are looking for a solution. They're looking for hope and help and so forth. So they tend to be somewhat depressed or in need of help, and that emanates into the structure. But churches are kind of interesting because in the front part, there's a lot of positivity, but as you get out into the pews where all the people are, it's more of a negative energy. Very interesting. It's all about emotion.
Yeah, I wonder if it would pick up a lot of like funerals
Oh
happening
yeah.
in churches too. I wonder
Oh yeah.
That's absolutely right. And something I'd like to add is I see all spirits go to their service, no matter where it is. If I go to a service for one of my friend's parents or something, and I have to bring a notebook because I'm going to be inundated with all the information for their family. It's really funny. Rob, I wanted to ask you, do you remember us going down to the cave and we did that reading for a big audience? This was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And talk about negative energy. Tell Bob about that experience.
Oh my gosh. I think it was, I'm trying to remember I think it was the Masons.
It was the Masons. It was.
Yeah. So there was actually a ghost in there in this particular place. And Ruthie and I kind of hunted this ghost out.
I was there first, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, Rob, go walk through that little hall.
Yeah, she made me walk into a hallway and into a closet, and I think the ghost came out of the closet after I did, so to speak. But we found out about him, and there was some negative energy in there.
We both saw the ghost.
We did.
I knew he was a judge, and I knew around the time that he was a member. But you actually went in and you got dates in his name. Do you remember that?
Honestly, no, I don't remember because
I do.
I talk to so many dead people that I can't keep track of them all.
Well, I was amazed because you had a name and a date like either his death or when he was there or something. But because I got a lot, but I thought, oh my, that was 10 years ago. And then we went into the big room where they have that big, the chair that looks like a king's chair.
Yes.
There were 5 psychics there that night. And when we walked in,
Oh, yeah.
the voices were, get out, get out, get out. The voices in that place, that talk about negative energy. And Rob, you said to me, Ruthie, you had a slideshow ready to go and everything, or you were doing a big show, and then I was going to do the demo. That was my very first time in a large group, by the way. Do you remember? I was pretty nervous.
That's right. It was Ruthie's public debut.
Yeah, it was.
And there's ghosts saying, get out, get out.
Yeah. And Rob said, you had a horrible headache because there were so many voices coming at us.
Yeah.
And I turned to Dr. Kelly Taylor, who was there. She said she's very psychic. And I said, are you hearing anything? She said, oh, my God, yeah. And then I turned to one of the other psychics. We were all hearing the exact same thing, screaming and yelling at us to get out. And Rob said, I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this because you were really affected. You had horrible pain in the back of your head. You had a headache. And I said, well, I don't know what you're doing, but I don't think I can do what you do. But we got through it. It was amazing. We all got through it.
So that leads to another aspect of this negative energy, Bob, is that negative energy that's imprinted within a structure or a ghost, because ghosts absorb and emit negative emotional energy, they absolutely affect the living. And they affect the living in a bad way. They make them feel negative in some ways, whether it's depression, anger, fear, something like that. So if you have a ghost in your house, the ghost needs to go, even if it's a good personality.
I agree.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting you say that. I went to the Witchboard Museum. I did a podcast there in Salem. I put a witchboard there. It's not supposed to have any hauntings to it or anything. I had 2 dogs at the time. I have one now. But the dog that I had was a bigger dog, and he just was like weird. When I came home, he usually would be around, but I couldn't find him. I actually thought I was in the house, and he was in his kennel, and I thought he was okay. But then he was gone, and I was looking all over the place. I couldn't find him. I looked in his kennel. I looked upstairs. I couldn't find him. I drove around, and then I came back ready to call the police, and there he was in his kennel. It was one of these weird things. I'll pause there because you're going to say something. Go ahead.
No, that's interesting that apparently he picked up on the negative energy that you brought home with you.
Yeah, and he was kind of messed up for a couple weeks after that. So much so that the other dog was okay. I thought it was the other dog, so I've never given up a dog, and I like this dog a lot, but he was getting a little protective and this stuff, and he had gnawed on his paw, and he was, really wasn't happy. So I actually gave him up to the doggy daycare. I just called doggy daycare and said, look, he's kind of off, and I don't know what it is, and I know how to solve this. And I asked my kids, they were a little uncomfortable around him, but they liked the newer one. I wasn't going to give him up unless it went to a place that was going to be better, right? So I said, do you know anyone in doggy daycare that you work with that could give him a really good home? And within 10 minutes, someone called me up, and now he's at the doggy daycare every day, romping around and having a great time. But yeah, it was kind of a weird couple weeks for me. And it was just, I didn't know, and I still don't know if it had to do with the board or what. It was just, you never know. I come from a different perspective than you two, but when weird things happen, you don't know if it's just whatever. But it was the weirdest thing coming home and not being able to find him anywhere. He usually came if I called him. He never went upstairs. I checked upstairs. And then I did find him up there at another day when he was up by my bed, kind of hiding up there. It was just kind of weird. It was a really funky time. And I would say also the past 7 weeks, I was going through a weird type of negativity thing where I talked to a shaman who was in the film who just did a cleansing for me because I just wasn't feeling right. So anyways, I went off on a tangent there about negativity, but you talked about living with a ghost. Sometimes you don't know you're living with a ghost, right? I mean, how do you know if you're living with a ghost? That's probably a good question.
I'll defer to Ruthie first, and then I'll come answer.
First of all, Bob, I'd like to tell you that you did know whether it was the witch's board you brought home. You did know because that's the first thing you thought of. And I always tell people you have to follow your intuition. The very first thing you think of is always 100% correct. So you did know, and you were absolutely right. The other thing that gets taken over is all of your auras and your we have all of these wonderful energy centers in our body called chakras. So when you have a negative situation like that, negative that involves negative energy, all of your chakras get taken over and out of balance. It's like you have 8 major ones, but we have thousands of chakras. But I'm glad you went to a shaman, and I'm glad what he did was he balanced you and realigned your chakras to get back and be 100% balanced. So you did know, and you did the right thing, by the way, by taking the dog out.
Yeah, I had this weird feeling that I was kind of a North Star bringing him to. I mean, this was a younger woman who worked at the doggy daycare who they loved him when he was there every day, and I did too. I mean, it was Rob. You would get this. The day before I was going to give him up, I'm sitting in a recliner. He's got this really big funnel on his head because I had 2 dogs at the same time with funnels on their head because of different things. And he came up and gave me this huge hug, and I just started sobbing like a little
Oh,
baby, because I'm in the recliner and he comes up and he just like jumps up on the side and like double and hugs me for like 5 or 10 minutes,
oh.
and then it was just the next day. And when I let him go, I mean, I knew it was right, so it wasn't super sad, but it was just, it's the only time in my life I ever did that, but I kind of knew it was the right thing, but it was it was a weird time, man. It was just really weird.
And you asked a question, and I forget. Did you ask, how do we know if there's a ghost in the house?
Yes, I did. Yeah, sorry. How do you know? Because I didn't know because you never know, because you don't know. People that aren't intuitive just think, I'm just acting weird. I'm just depressed, whatever. How do you know when you
Well,
have a
you
ghost?
don't know for sure because it could just be I mean, first of all, it's just negative energy. When you think about it, all negative energy is transferable. Just like Rob said, it can even be in your walls. You can pick up on it. It's residual energy. Residual negative energy is extremely powerful in being transferred to a person or from person to person. When I get called into a house clearing, I never know what's going to greet me. But I always make sure that I've talked to the person. I want to know all the ages of the kids that live in the house if they have children. I also make sure that every single person that lives in that home is there when I come to do my thing, which is to clear the home. But I also have to clear every single person that's in that house.
Mhm.
I want to read them before I do anything. And when I say that, I read their energy because I can tell the minute I'm reading them, whoa, we have someone who has psychic ability here, and that will bring in ghosts much quicker, or bring in any kind of the wrong energy for this person if they're not careful. So I'm reading the person 99% of the time of all the clearings I've ever done. There has not been a ghost there. What there is negative energy by one person in that house is responsible. And I know exactly who it is, but I clear each person and I talk to them about negative and positive energy. And many times there'll be something, they may have a home that was built on a pet cemetery, which I found. And I said, does everyone in this home have a lot of dreams involving pets? Maybe animals, even wild animals. And they all said, oh my God, we all have dreams constantly. And I said, the reason you're dreaming about this is because this home was built on a pet cemetery. You need to look into that. And they did, of course, and sure enough, it was.
Oh my gosh.
Even the pet, it wasn't that they were having nightmares and being driven out of their home, but they were wondering, why is this happening? So there's all kinds of, Rob, you taught me about energy. You were the first one to really teach me about residual energy when I was with you. And I saw my first residual energy event. But there's all kinds of energies and all kinds of negative energies. So you wouldn't necessarily know, oh, I have a ghost in my house. A lot of people feel something is different in their home.
Mhm.
They may not have a ghost, but they have negative, very active negative energy in the home.
So, quick question before Rob interjects and Rob, you can answer this. What's the difference between negative energy and a negative entity?
Um, well, They can be one and the same, actually.
Hmm.
A negative entity, it would be more the ghost, and but they have to have the negative energy in that home or around that person to have a ghost. I've seen ghosts outside that have. I had a police officer I had to help. He every time he went by this one particular area, he saw a ghost. He actually saw it, and I had to send the ghost into the light. Now, do I call that a negative entity? Yeah, I guess I would, because this poor police officer was in an enormous amount of pain seeing this ghost, and his heart got heavy, and he felt an incredible deep compression on his chest. So once I got the male ghost to go into the light, the male ghost didn't want to go because he was afraid he wasn't going to see his children. And once he got into the light and I talked him into it, it was like I had the chief of police and the police officer stand back probably 50 yards from me. And the minute the ghost left the area, this police said he felt like his chest had burst open and all this negative energy left him. It was pretty amazing. I don't know if Rob's had anything like that happen to him. You've probably had more things like that happen, Rob.
Being on the Inspired Ghost Tracking team, we've crossed a lot of ghosts over. It really has made a tremendous difference. We also feel warm air whenever we cross a ghost over, and I can't explain that, but we physically feel the air get warmer. That's kind of an end result of that. But the way that I tell people whether or not they can figure out if they have a ghost in their house is really to call a paranormal investigation team, because, like Ruthie said, it's hard to discern whether it's negative energy or whether it's a negative entity, which is a ghost. So that's why paranormal teams come in there and stay overnight with scientific equipment, and then mediums go in to try and get some kind of a reading from the ghost and information from them. As Ruthie mentioned when we were at that event in Cape Cod, sometimes they will give me names or dates or something to confirm their identity. But you really need to reach out to a paranormal team, and paranormal teams should not charge to go into your home and find out if there's anything actually haunting the house.
Yeah, but the process of actually clearing does take a lot. I mean, we talked to Ruthie before. That would take something, right? If it required a lot of time to clear something, then it probably is okay to charge someone, right? Is that accurate? I would to tell if they have a ghost if you can clear it easily. But if it's like a long, detailed thing and it's almost like a demonic depossession where you're going back and back and back, at some point I would imagine there is for someone's time that you would pay them.
Well, I think there's a difference here because, mediums like Ruthie take their personal time, and I mean that's what she does for a living. Paranormal teams, on the other hand, do not. And Ruthie is going to provide a much more in-depth cleansing. So, as in the paranormal team, we've had to go back a couple of times to different houses. We thought we've crossed things over, but things continue to come in or crop up. So.
Have you ever had to call Ruthie and consult her? And have you ever said, Ruthie, this is something weird? Do you ever talk to each other on the phone about some of the stuff that you guys do, your investigations?
No, I haven't, because Ruthie is overbooked. So,
Yeah, that's an understatement. Yeah.
Well, when I went out to visit Rob one time, I went on one of those investigations and I loved it. I just loved going. I loved the whole idea of it. I thought it was awesome.
Hmm.
And one of the other things that, I do is when I get out to a home, because I never know what I'm going to find, I end up sometimes doing Reiki on people when I'm there because they need it. Like I said, I just never, ever know what I'm going to get. So that's why it's important that every single person be there. I pick up the energy from each person. And you're right, Rob. I'm there most likely, at least, depending on the size of the house,
Mhm.
a half a day.
Yeah,
So,
that's a long time.
but when I leave, they're not going to have a problem.
Yeah, Ruthie's like a paranormal EMT because one, she can go in, she can identify things, she can clear it, she can also do Reiki on people, but she can also do, what do you call it, Ruthie?
I'm a spiritual healer. I do spiritual therapy with a lot of people that just now they're my regular clients. They want to keep coming back to me. I give them so much clarity on a spiritual level. So I'm now doing a lot of spiritual therapy with people. Once a month, they have a regular appointment with me, just like their therapist. But I do have a lot of therapists send their patients to me. I don't encourage anyone to do anything without a licensed medical therapist as well. A lot of them have a medical therapist, and then they have me for spiritual therapy.
The big irony that hits me as I was setting up this thing was we're well into the end of 2020. I'm thinking, why didn't I have you guys on like 9 months earlier to deal with negativity? Because it's like,
Yeah. So I have some tips for the folks that are dealing with negative energy
great.
because this year has been extremely taxing with the pandemic. We've been locked in the house. We've been unable to socialize. I understand too that a lot of married couples find out that they really don't like each other. So some of the things that I always recommend to people whenever there's negative energy is number one, play soft instrumental music. Number two, invite a lot of light into your house. Open the curtains, open the shutters, open the shades. Bring that natural light in because light is a healing thing. Light candles, write notes to people, write letters again. Talk to people by Google Hangout or Facebook or whatever. Get face to face. Do something nice for somebody. Even somebody, I mean, somebody you don't know or somebody you know. Send them a note and make them feel better. There are so many things. And clean your house because a dirty house is disorganization and clutter and disorganization invite chaos and bad feelings. So Ruthie, I wanted to throw this over to you too because you've done a lot of house clearings, like with sage and so forth. So, what other tips can you offer people to dispel the negative energy?
First of all, I love your list. It's absolutely perfect. And I am going to take your advice. Well, I live my life just like you just outlined there, but I'm going to write those things down for my clients too. I love that list, Rob, because I'm more on when people, I tell them all the time, get some sage stick and sage your home and try to sage the rooms that are being used more frequently by your family because there's going to be so many quarrels, etc., or negative energy in those rooms. So, and then I tell them to buy a Himalayan salt lamp, which will eat up the negative energy in a room. So I've actually walked from one room to another in someone's home and walked in and noticed immediately the difference in that room, the next room, and I walked backwards and then I walked back in. I'm like, where's your salt lamp? You have one in here somewhere. Is that correct? They're like, yeah, we're doing it. That's how much I can feel the energy change. The energy is so much better in a room that has a Himalayan salt lamp, and it's unbelievable.
Ruthie, since you told us that, we have a Himalayan salt lamp upstairs and downstairs.
Yep. And I bet you're better, doing better.
Oh, it works. Yep.
Yeah, I'm thinking of going on Amazon
Buy
after
them.
this.
Yeah, on Amazon you can buy them and leave them on all the time. They're meant to be left on, and with a 15-watt bulb. When I first brought mine into my home, I have like 13 stairs to get up to my second floor, and I put one in my second floor, and I turned it off because I said to myself, "What's daytime? I don't need it on." I turned it off. I went downstairs. I came upstairs 2 hours later. It was back on. I went, geez, I could have sworn I turned this off. Turned it off again, went downstairs, came up again, it was back on. I said, okay, I got it. I'm supposed to leave it on. And you are supposed to leave them on. So I also tell people that are bothered, I have a list that I send out and Rob, I'd be happy to share it with you and with you, Bob, if you want to include this anywhere at all. But I do have a list of things to do first before I come out. I say, listen, there are things you can do for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If I come out, I'm going to charge you for that half day's work. So these are things you can, and I send the list out all the time. And on it is the Himalayan salt lamps. The other thing is sage, burn sage in your home. Also, crystals are amazing. I used to think people that had crystals were crazy people. Now I understand their healing properties and I understand exactly what they have extremely high energy vibration levels like a human. They're even higher than a human. You can get into some crystals and the right type of crystals for the right type of situation you're going through. Tremendously helpful. I talk about how just when you start to think of something negative, the more negative you're thinking, the more negative it's going to come to you and the more negative you're going to feel. And I teach all my clients, when you think of something negative, and negativity affects everyone and it's bound to be in your life. We can't avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think of a situation that is very negative to you, you give it an incredible amount of power. And the more you think about it, you're feeding it, and it's going to eventually affect you, mind, body, and spirit. And I know this for a fact. This is what I teach in a lot of my workshops. And Rob, you and I did a little mini workshop for you and Tom, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So it starts from the inside out. Yes, you can get everything in order in your home, but you first start getting everything in order in your own brain, because you're going to suffer if you don't.
I want to ask you guys something. What you said, Ruthie, I do that a lot. I'm one of those people that thinks of negative things before they happen, sometimes I'll be negative. And so I will every day try to start my day with gratitude. I say, and this is exactly what I say. I begin my day with gratitude. I thank the Lord my God, Jesus Christ my Savior, guardian angels, guardian spirits in the universe for all the love, protection, and blessing that you give me. Thank you, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, St. Joseph, and St. Peter. And then I'll go on things that I'm looking for help with. And I've been finding the past month or so, when I reached out to the shaman, I'm almost like distracted and I never finish it. It's almost like something's distracting me, so I'm not finishing that. I'll be like, oh God, I didn't finish that aspirational thing to start my day. It's like something almost distracts me. And I felt that the past several weeks, where I finally have to refocus myself and say, I'm going to start again and finish to the end. So that's something. I wonder how many people deal with that. I'd like to get both of your thoughts on that. And one other side note is, what's the vitamin C of crystals? Is it tourmaline, or what's the vitamin C? What's the one type of all around good for your health type of crystal that many people would have?
An amethyst is awesome. I think that has the most benefit that you can possibly have. Even for migraine headaches, if you get one, you put it right, lay down and get one with a flat side, and you put it right in the middle of your head. And you lay down for 15 minutes or so, and if you can catch it right away, it's unbelievable. It'll take it right away if you can catch it immediately. And apophyllite is the best healing crystal you can get. So if you've got a pain somewhere, or you're healing from a disease, or you're trying to get rid of arthritis, the apophyllite is from India, and it's the best healing crystal you could ever have, ever. And you have to pick them out yourself. You can't just order them on the internet, because depending on when you close your eyes and put your hand over a crystal or a number of crystals, you'll be guided with your eyes closed. You'll feel the movement of a crystal, or you feel the energy of a crystal, or you feel the heat of a crystal. You will know immediately which crystal is meant for you. It's unbelievable. They're definitely a big part of my life now, and I never, ever would have thought that was going to happen in a million years.
And so, Rob, you're a meteorologist. What crystal will stop having these stupid snowstorms come for a guy with a flat roof? There's something I can put out there on my roof.
Yeah, you can put a pitched roof on top of your flat roof.
Yeah, pitch roof, right? Or rock salt too, probably.
There you go.
So what are your thoughts, Rob? Is there anything that you have when you go to a paranormal investigation? Are there any crystals that you bring with you?
I don't bring any crystals with me, but usually I do a prayer of protection, and I surround myself with white light. And then when we come out, we always have chocolate, because chocolate raises the endorphins in your body and makes you feel good and helps dispel negative energy. So always have chocolate when you're feeling down.
That's a win-win.
Even on the Harry Potter movies, they had chocolate. They were giving Harry Potter chocolate when he went through a thing with the demons, with dementors, I think they were called. So another thing I just wanted to mention to you, Bob, is when you said you wake up, and I love the prayer you start with. I always do very similar type prayers. I always make sure that I'm in the best possible place when I'm given a reading. But when you said that sometimes you feel like something happens, you get pulled away from the prayers that you're doing. I get that. I think everyone gets that. And that's something that you need to, you're doing exactly what you should do. You just have to start all over and you have to make it like part of your routine because there's so much that can get in our way of being in the moment. And being in the moment is what you need to be in order to get through that meditation and those beautiful prayers that you say.
And so, Rob, what is a cleansing thing once you leave a place? What's a cleansing thing that you do? Is there a certain prayer that you say? How do you decompress once you leave a place?
Well, usually when you leave a place, you can put on music that you like. Chocolate is actually the most beneficial thing. And when you come home and you take a shower, water energy is very cleansing. And you can just picture that water is like a white light that pours on top of you, and you wash all that negativity right down the drain.
That's excellent. What do you do if negative energy comes back? You feel good for a couple days. I'll start with you, Rob. Is it just like rinse and repeat, or what's the steps if you start feeling the negative energy come back?
Yeah, you can do all that long list of things that I cited earlier. The soft music, the invite light, do something positive for someone. All of those things will help regenerate your own positive energy and dispel that negative energy from you. There's always something that's going to make you feel better. Read a book, get a good cup of coffee, learn how to appreciate the simple things in life because that's really, I think, the key to feeling good.
It's kind of like refocus yourself onto something that's going to make you constantly stay in motion and constantly move forward instead of rather being stuck in what you're doing.
Mhm.
Let's close on. I will close on again. If I know Ruthie, you have some stuff coming up in February, and Rob, you've got your book. Before we talk about how people can follow you guys and all the great stuff you do, let's just take a couple minutes with each of you. Thoughts on 2020 first, and then looking ahead to 2021. So, Rob, we're at the end of the year. You've had kind of a tough year too. You lost two beloved pets. What are your thoughts looking back on 2020?
I'm an optimist, and there's a bright spot in every darkness, and that's the way I have always looked at life. And I was taught that, by the way, by following Dolly Parton. She taught me to be an optimist when I was a teenager, just by watching her, and I've carried that with me, and that really helps. So, one thing I learned about the pandemic, number one, is that we don't realize how many gifts we really have until we are isolated from them. Number two, we really need to appreciate the people in our lives because every single person that you meet, no matter good or bad, they are a gift in some way. Number three, I was actually grateful to be working from home because of the pandemic this year, because we lost our Weimaraner Dolly at almost 16 and our Dachshund Franklin at 16 years old. And we got to spend every single day of their lives from March until the days they passed in May and October. And that was the greatest gift I could have had. So there's always something positive from something negative. That's the way I'll leave it.
That's wonderful. Okay, Ruthie, anything to add to that?
I love that what you said, Rob, and I'm an optimist as well. But I think in order to be an optimist, it's not as easy as just saying, "Oh, I'm going to be an optimist." You have to really work at it. When you said earlier, Bob, that you feel gratitude is very important, and you start your day like that. It's the most important. When I teach my classes, I ask my students, I'll say, "What's the entrance fee for spirituality?"
Mhm.
And it's gratitude. And everyone has a different answer, but it's gratitude. If you're grateful for the small little things, a cup of coffee, having a tool for something in the home, having a vacuum so you can clean whatever it is, it doesn't make any difference what it is. It's the act of being thankful. And if you can do that, every single time you're even thinking a negative thought, if you're just saying, "I'm thankful for this, I'm thankful, God, thank you for giving me my
Mm.
grandson who lives with me." And by the way, in 2020, he's in all virtual school, so he's home with me every day, all day. And I'm grateful that I can be here for him. I'm grateful that I can work from home. I'm grateful I can do all these phone readings. And I give him my schedule every day and we work it through. You either, like Rob said, you have to make sure that you take the time to understand what you're grateful for. 2021 is going to be a lot better for a lot of people. There were businesses, I work with some business owners for regular reading, and they are all fine this year. I told them they were going to be fine. I told them some of the things that were coming up for them. But the bottom line is that if you're grateful for everything you have already, I don't care if you're a business owner, I don't care what it is or who you are. Number one thing to be is grateful.
So before we ask Rob about 2021, I go for drives just to start my day. I go get coffee and I gotta start. I used to commute at my job. Now that I don't have to commute, I go for a drive in the beginning of the morning just to kind of get out of the house. And you know how you pass these churches and they have these little marquees out. And one of the sayings I've been seeing, which I think you both might find interesting, is it's something in the effect of silent gratitude is ingratitude.
Yeah.
Is what the sign said, which means if you don't speak your gratitude, you're not displaying your gratitude. I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's very beautiful. But the spirit world will hear silent gratitude. They hear everything and they know everything. But I love that silent gratitude. I love that saying.
Probably best for the living, yeah. So, Rob, looking ahead, I have a feeling 2021 is going to be a great year for you with this book coming out in January and just kind of who you are, man. Tell us what you're thinking about for 2021.
I'm thinking about a good vaccine and maybe finally a vacation sometime around the end of the year. I just think that every day is a gift that we get up, and I'm blessed to have this ability. And I have to say that everybody has the ability to communicate with the people and the pets that they lost, and that's why I write the books I write. There's good things coming in 2021. I am not a psychic, but I can feel the energy changing already. So I wish everybody a happy and healthy new year in 2021, and I will be here to help out.
Well, that's a good segue to closing. So, we'll start with you, Rob, and then with Ruthie. Where can people find you to check out on your new book that's coming out, and also just to check in and need that positive reaffirmation and your tip to help guide them through dark times into the light?
Sure. Petspirits.com is my website, and I'm also on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, and Instagram, even though I don't understand that. And also, I'm also on Amazon.com has my 7 books, soon to be 8 books. Pets in the Afterlife 3 coming out in January with Bob's friend in there. So
Yeah, that was a thrill. And I know he and I are definitely going to get one. Ruthie, what about you? I know you don't have a book coming out, though. You and Rob should get together sometime.
That's not a bad idea. You might get me going if we could do one together. That's great.
you're already in my Pets in the Afterlife 1 book, though.
Yeah, but I'm talking about us really doing one together. I would love that. So, well, I am looking forward to doing more workshops. I'm actually going to do a 10-week workshop online for Zoom, and that's going to be a big deal. That's starting in February for me, and I've been it's something I've been planning for a very long time on being in the moment and ego. And these are all things that are very important parts of our spiritual nature. Ego is probably as important in a positive and negative way, both, as being grateful. And people don't understand that a person that's always a victim can actually have as big an ego as a person that we would say, oh my gosh, his ego is as big as the world, or her ego is. But anyways, I'm a very deep thinker, and I really love this kind of thing. I love opening up people's minds. So I'm going to continue with all the readings I do, helping the parents who've lost a child for no charge, as well as doing more workshops for 2021.
Yeah, I was going to mention that you do spend a lot of your time helping parents with grieving children. You put them to the front of the list, and it is at no charge, almost like Rob goes in the houses and does investigations on the paranormal for free. So there's a lot of pro bono that you do, and you both do great work to help everybody. So, hey, you know what? I'm already looking forward to 2021. I feel better wrapping up my first year as a podcaster with 2 of my favorite guests. So thank you both for being on the show.
Oh, thank you. This has been awesome, and we can't wait to hear your next podcast.
Thank you so much for having us.
Happy New Year.
You've been listening to the Afraid of Nothing podcast. Please subscribe and like us on Facebook. Until next time, stay scared.
Hey, you're still here? Great. Then why not listen to another episode? Visit afraidofnothingpodcast.com to peruse all the shows. That's afraidofnothingpodcast.com. And while you're there, click the coffee cup icon to buy me a coffee and leave a review. I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming episode, and the world will know how swell you are.